How's it going, guys? D_Black Tape bringing you guys another Samurai 8 video. And so before we get started, I want to talk about reading the scanlations over the official. You should read the official because it just has better quality overall in the art, and the story flows a lot better overall. The scanlations tend to have a lot of errors in the translations, and it's no disrespect to them because it's much appreciated. But in order to get in depth an understanding of this story, because it has a very lot of complex elements to it, you should be reading the officials, and that comes out on Sundays. You can either read that on shonenjump.com, and if you've caught up by the scanlations, you can read the first 3 chapters. I mean, not the first 3 chapters, but the last 3 chapters on Shonen Jump, and you get each chapter that comes out every week for free. So there's that, and you can also read on mangaplus.com. Shouts out to them because they come out the same day with the same quality as the official release. So if you want to say that you're having issues with people that spoil online, just mute people, block people, create a different Twitter for those specific days. Like, I have a personal account and I have my anime account, and on my personal account it has very small amounts of anime stuff on it, so I don't get spoiled at all. And if you see people spoiling, like I saw a guy in the Rogers Base video during that One Piece chapter when the bounties were revealed, and he was putting the bounties under one of Rogers' posts. So if you see stuff like that, block them, report them, get them offline, because that shit's mad disrespectful. We need to start putting these people in their place. So let's get into this last chapter, and I want to talk about 3 things specifically from this chapter. I have 3 theories that I have from this chapter, and so one of them is involving the key holders, and I want to do a video about that a little later on. But what I'm thinking is, why was there a need to create samurai? What was the purpose? And I think we're getting a little bit of inklings here and there with, now that we're on this planet, I believe it's called Kinka, and on Kinka they seem to resemble giant key holders, and a lot of the time, and we've seen panels with like a giant head, we've seen like spinal cords, and like it looks like little boxes that we see when a key holder is like naked basically, and we see that like buried throughout Kinka, and they're like giant. So I think that we're getting a little bit of reason as to why samurai were created, because there has to be a purpose as to what they were fighting for Fudomyo, to give them the power to become immortal and to do all these different things. So I'm gonna do a key holder video later, because I believe that they apply to the potential destroyers of the galaxy, or the potential people that Fudomyo wanted to create samurai to prevent. So let's get into this chapter. So it starts off with Daruma cutting off his samurai above him and their key holder up, and then we get the panel, next page, we get them fighting, we get the aftermath of their collision from last chapter. They're just all on the ground. We see the number counter go down from 1572 to 1576, and Hachi notices this, and then that's when we get the sponsor coming on, and the sponsor explains, hey, you guys, you only get 1 chance, there's no regenerating, and if you damage your key in any way, shape, or form, you will be eliminated. So these guys, they were all cut in half essentially. Your key serves as your spinal cord, your body, and it connects everything together. So since they were cut in half, boom, eliminated from the tournament. So we get a few panels down, a few pages down, and we see Kotsuga and Hachimaru talking, and Kotsuga is explaining, hey, my plan is to beat this guy, win this $1 billion, and I have Ryu to back me up and protect me. So now I'm gonna go into this theory about Kotsuga and why I believe he's gonna betray the group. Alright, so Kotsuga, from the very start that we've gotten him, he's shown as someone that would do anything for his own personal gain and moves. So he's been using Ryu to steal from other people because he's a strong samurai, and he notices this. So Kotsuga must have some tie in his past to samurai to understand that, hey, these guys are unnatural and I should probably follow after them. And it seems that he does want to become a samurai. By the way, he's flirting with Anne and whatnot, saying, I'll protect you and whatnot like that. So I think Kotsuga serves another purpose outside of just being, a funny guy character. I think later on down the line, right, because we've been getting these little panels, and he explains to Ryu when they're still back on the ship in chapter 19. He's like, hey, don't get too close to these guys. If they get cut down, we could take all their stuff, and it's possible that we can betray them or whatever. And it seems that Kotsuga is one is very calculated and detailed in going about his things. So I feel like there has to be a reason that he's specifically after this 1 billion yen. So it could be, to protect his planet or to save his planet or whatever. But I believe there's a purpose behind this. And so what I'm thinking is that, because later on we get a panel of one of the defeated samurais, and after Hachimaru and Kotsuga's confrontation, he says, oh, I know which one of them is a good man. And he's talking about Hachimaru, and Daruma says, I can only hope so. But Kotsuga seems like he's someone that he has a bad history, a bad past, because he explains to Hachimaru when he's pressuring Ryu that, hey, there are some things people don't want to talk about in their past. So I think he has some issues going on back then. And so how I think that this is all going to tie in, I believe there's one of two ways that he betrays him. One is that later on during the tournament, he realizes, hey, nobody can beat this guy, right? Nobody can beat the sponsor on the planet, and then boom, we get Ata and Ikaku showing up, right? And that's when Katsuga's like, hey, this guy right here, this guy's the truth, so let me go join up with him, because this guy can help me get what I want. And that seems like Katsuga's character, essentially. He does whatever, he uses people to his advantage, whatever way, shape, or form that may be. And we have to remember that Kala was a samurai under Fudomiyo back in the day. Like they were traveling together. And so he has spurned all the other schools, created his own school, created his own program, and he made Ata even more powerful. So it's very possible that whatever Katsuga's after, he could possibly get a buffer power-up from Kala by joining him. He could potentially become a samurai or something like that. Or we could see, towards the end of the tournament that, Kotsuga runs into a really strong samurai. He realizes this samurai is stronger than Daruma and Daruma and Ryu, and he's like, hey, and whatever plans going on, he spills the beans on that end or whatever. And but I think this ends with Kotsuga betraying them somehow, some way, for some purpose, and he's after this money for whatever reason. So that's my Kotsuga theory. Let me know what you guys think about that. But let's keep going with this chapter, right? Because it was just more. It was way more than that. So after we get the rule explanation, Hachimaru says, I want to befriend this guy, and Kotsuga says, we're gonna beat him and get that 1 billion yen. Kotsuga's like, hey, Hachimaru, quit being loud. You're gonna get us, draw attention to us. So that points out that, Kotsuga wants people to eliminate themselves and just come up and sweep at the end, He's one of those guys. He doesn't like doing the direct combat. He's like, hey, there's no point in all that. Let's just chill back. So, as they're traveling, Daruma pulls out a badass sniper rifle, asks Kotsuga to be his eyes, and we get this nice desert panel, and it looks like the rib cages of key holders, like giant key holders. And we've seen other giant key holders with the Yokozuna grade holder with Mujin, and Ata's dragon key holder. So those are some nice things that we need to think about and keep up with that, because this is probably why samurai were needed in the first place, to beat these terrorizing creatures. So, we get the battle, the battle begins, and we get a big countdown from 12,000 all the way to like 1200 to 125, and we get all these dope panels of all these samurai fighting and whatnot, and these different styles and sword clashes and whatnot, and it's all really beautiful. But my only gripe is that it wasn't more spaced out. I wish it was more spaced out over at least 2 or 3 pages. At least that would have been cool. But we get this dope panel with all these samurai fighting in their armor, and we get like a polar bear saber-tooth holder, we get like a pterodactyl holder, and we get like these different fighting styles and different types of armor. So this is really cool. We get a Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck looking combination right here. And this guy says some interesting stuff. So he says, I am the samurai nobleman, the grand demon lord, the ultimate samurai commander. So although he's just some random weakling, I assume that there's a samurai commander rank. He says that he's the next contender for the Grand Stellar Shogun. That's another rank. So far we've got commander, shogun, and federation general, federation leader over a planet. That was what Mujin was. So this guy, he introduces a new style. It's called the Gozanze style, and he says it's Jaku. Hachimaru doesn't let him use his attack. He immediately cuts him in half. But Hachimaru is starting to have an issue where he's only focusing on cutting down his enemies, and we've repeatedly seen this, that he's forgetting about Anne and everything else. He's just going on, he's just trying to go on about his one purpose, and that is to kill Ata, because he killed his dad and all that good stuff. So this leads to Anne being captured, and this is where we get this badass samurai that comes in a few pages. But I want to talk about this samurai that captures Anne. He has like body modifications, and it looks like guns that are coming out of his shoulders. So I think we can see more body modifications later on down the line. That's going to be dope. But this samurai, I think he uses a similar technique that Ryu uses during Hachimaru and him's fight, where he extends his samurai soul and splits the samurai that's holding Anne in two. He says the lowliest of all samurai is the sneaking coward, and it's him, his princess, and like a stork key holder. And this stork key holder is so badass. It looks like fucking Articuno from Pokemon. If there's any Pokemon fans out there, shouts out to y'all. But he saves Anne, and he lets her go, and he says that and Hachimaru says thank you for saving Anne. And the guy asks, hey, is this your princess of fate? And so this guy's very interesting. His markings on his face are very similar to the markings on Hachimaru's forehead, so I hope there's something there in the next chapter. But he says that his heroism is shallow, and he says that your fixation on severing the enemy caused you to lose sight of your princess. So I think this is going to be more growing moments for Hachimaru, showing that, hey, you can't go down this path of destruction that you're going down. You can't go down this path of revenge, because it leads you to forgetting about things. All you care about is cutting down your enemies. So Hachimaru's thinking to himself, he's like, he's right. And he's like, now he's thinking about Anne. He's like, he thinks about back to the time where he's like, man, I promised that I'd do anything to protect you. And he's like, man, what can I say to her? And so this samurai, he says that your sword teaching your sword to sever is not enough to make you strong, boy. What a samurai is meant to refine exists between you two. So he's talking about the relationship between Anne and Hachimaru, between a samurai and their princess, and there apparently exists like a very, very, very special relationship between these two, because we get this really badass fucking panel where Anne is praying for Hachimaru, and it's like these flames in the background, and he's like, and it's like, and they're like totally in sync together. And I think we're about to get Anne's flashback, and I'm so fucking excited about that. So that was pretty much the chapter. They square off. Anne prays, and she gets like this little flash, and it goes dark in her head. She's like, her as a princess, I don't know. This is her thinking back to what people have said to her. She's not really good at anything. I heard she lost her locker ball. Then I suppose Anne's never gonna find her samurai. She doesn't have anything special for herself. She's always losing things. If I remember, her older brother was. And then Hachimaru screams. He's like, Anne, I'm sorry about earlier. I'm not perfect. But, and then Anne smiles. She snaps out of her delusion or whatever. And that's when she starts praying. She says, I know, that's why I'm here. So it shows that their relationship is really starting to pick up and move. And so, the samurai notices this. He says, very keen, heroism. So this is courage, I assume. Is courage and heroism is like I think courage is more from the scanlations, and they're calling it heroism here. And then we get a clash, and then we get a panel that says, what's this? A shining white samurai soul. And then the rumor says, so you're beginning to awaken at last. So this chapter was really good. I want to say it was a 9 out of 10 from start to finish. It had me on the edge of my seat. But I really hope we get a good detailed clash, or at least Anne's backstory next chapter at the very least, because that's going to be dope. But let me know if this is your first time, watching a video. If this, or if you've been here, make sure you subscribe down below. It's not that hard. It takes 2 seconds. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down below about this chapter. The possibility of the samurai being created to fight these giant holders. What I think about Kotsuga betraying everyone. And just the chapter overall. Let me know what you guys, what your predictions are for the next chapter. And hope you guys have a good one. Peace.